thank you for joining us for Tree Doctors. I'm your host, John Passmore, and we're here in historic Batesville, Arkansas. This community is the second oldest community in the state of Arkansas. It was settled in 1812, and we're going to see if we can find an old tree that might have been here when the settlers first came. We're going to join up with Ed Dickey, the head tree doctor of Dickey Tree Service, right after these messages. Stick around, won't you?
The tree doctors at Dickey Tree Service can inject a zap back in your tree's sap. Research has showed that ice-damaged trees are stressed, and stressed trees lead to insect and disease attacks. Micro tree injection is the answer for your trees. Micro tree injection is a closed system, delivering the exact dose of systemic chemical directly to the sap stream of the tree. Once the problem is identified, the tree doctors at Dickey Tree Service can inject vitamins, minerals, or insecticide directly into the sap stream of your trees. This bypasses the roots and provides immediate results. Micro tree injection has been university tested and field proven for over 35 years. After the tree doctors at Dickey Tree Service treat your trees, you receive a written 1-year guarantee. We won't treat a tree we don't think we can help. Let the tree doctors at Dickey Tree Service put the zap back in your tree's sap.
We're ready to go hunt down Ed Dickey and see if he can give us some points on how to take care of our trees. Let's do that right now on Tree Doctors.
We're here at the campus of the University of Arkansas Community College at Batesville, and here with me is Heath Woolridge and Tina Paul. Heath is over the grounds here, and back in 2000, the college called me in, and we treated about close to 200 of these. You remember that, Heath?
Yes, I do. I believe it was about 250 trees altogether that y'all treated.
Right, and the reason being is that the college had just did an expansion project, and warranty is about to go out on some new ones, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
And we got them pretty well in check. And what are your duties here, Heath? What all do you do?
I'm actually the plant maintenance coordinator, and I take care of trying to keep their grounds and buildings in tip-top shape, which includes the general grounds and the building facilities also.
I see, and you do an outstanding job, I feel, because the trees and the yard and everything really looks good. And Tina, I noticed y'all got a expansion project going on over here too.
We do. Right now we're working on rebidding the library project. It's a library academic complex that'll include 6 classrooms and a new library for the campus. As we grow, we're trying to add buildings to keep up with that growth. Since 1997, we've more than doubled our enrollment. We've gone from 579 to 1,317 students this fall. So we're just trying to keep up with the growth and keep adding classroom space for the students.
And I failed to mention your title. What is your title here at the college?
I'm the Director of Public Relations.
I see. And Heath, on these trees that we have treated, do you have some people under you, I suppose, that do a little bit of the follow-up information I gave you too?
Yes, I have a number of people, including student workers, that help me on the grounds and the buildings. I have approximately 7 people that help me with the landscaping, lawn care and stuff. And I have about three main people that help me tend to the trees and the grounds. All in together, we have about 10 employees that try to help maintain the campus.
How many acres is this campus? Does anybody know that?
I think we've got, I believe it's 56 acres total. We've got an east campus and a west campus now that's divided by the creek. And the new building expansion that Tina had mentioned is going to be on the west side of the campus, or the east side of the campus, which will be about a 20,000 square foot building.
Yes.
Well, I know since 2000 I treated these trees, it really has grown quite a bit since I was here. If anybody who's not familiar with the college here at Batesville, they need to drive on through here and take a look at what a beautiful college they have and what they got going on here, because it is really a great learning institution and good people that takes care of it. And would you like to add anything to that?
everybody who comes onto our campus comments about how beautiful it is, and the trees really add, the landscaping have added a lot to the campus, and we're really proud of what we can do for the community. And we've shown tremendous growth, and we're proud of that, but we're really proud of what we provide to the community and want to continue to serve them.
Yes, ma'am. I'm just tickled y'all let me be a part of it back in 2000 when your trees got in trouble here, and they're really looking good. And Heath, I'd like to say you have really kept them looking good.
Well, thank you, and of course you've directed us in the right direction in the beginning, and we've tried to follow through with that maintenance program that you recommended. So you've helped us out a great deal.
Well, I want to thank both of y'all for taking a minute of your busy schedule to talk to me about it, and I hope more people come and look at this nice campus and utilize it. I'm here in a pine grove, and you can see how the construction injury on this pine tree has really left it where it's not a very good specimen. And the only way it's actually getting fed is, camera don't show it, but there's a little line in the back where it's getting the sap. This tree won't be with us too much longer. If they would have been a little more careful, it might not have happened, but they're going to lose a tree. I tell people to walk through their area when they see a problem tree like this. It's not going to last very long. Get them a roll of construction ribbon. Just tie it about breast height on there, on any of the trees that you think's got a problem that you tend to remove at a later date. Live with those ribbons being on there for a while. To change your mind, it's just a matter of going out there and popping that ribbon off. But once you've got your battle plan, I call it, established, call your tree worker in, have them remove those, and start getting your place in good shape. But just by leaving this simply, they're just putting off what's going to happen. Get it on out of here, and you'll be glad you did. I'm here at the home of Bob and Wanda Pomeroy. And Bob, you called me in here a little over 2 years ago, and your trees was having trouble. How long's your house been here, Bob?
It's about 8 years.
Yes, sir. And this nice tree in the garden that Wanda's got going on around it with all the flowers and stuff is kind of in a restricted situation. That's one of the ones we treated. What made you call us back here a few years ago?
Well, we had about 7 or 8 trees that were pretty sick. One big red oak up front, and we had already lost about 4 or 5, and we were wanting to try to save what we had left.
Yes, sir. The borers have been bad in the last 3 or 4 years, and your yard is really looking good. And who does all your shrub maintenance and all this stuff here around here?
A young man by the name, he's got Gregory's Landscaping.
Well,
Greg Byler's the boy's name.
Okay, well, it sure looks good, and your shrubbery's looking good, and your trees have really picked up since we treated them. I think you'll agree they have improved.
Yeah, they look better. They sure do. The ice last winter didn't help them.
I tell you what, it hurt a lot of our great old trees around. And some of your trees here have got a little age on them, too. I think we talked about it here when I was here before. There's 67-year-old trees, some of them.
Oh, yeah, at least that.
I've noticed how beautiful his yard looks each spring. We treated these trees in here, but he, and I got to quizzing him about it. And Bob, give our homeowners a little bit of tip on what you do.
Well, about every 2 weeks I put, during the summertime, I'll put about 50 pounds of ammonium nitrate on this 3/4 acre yard, and then about twice a summer I put anywhere from 1 pound to 2 pounds of Epsom salts.
You're talking about the regular old Epsom salts you get to soak your hand in, you get at Walmart or whatever store you get at.
Yeah, it's if you get it from a commodity chemical supplier, they call it magnesium sulfate. And it'll green your grass up, and it'll make it take up nutrients. You just better be ready to mow.
Yes, sir. And might want to ask about your occupation. What do you do, Bob?
I deal with water quality in industries, with poultry plants, all types of industry where they use water. Then we clean the water up so they can discharge it back to the cities and to the streams.
Well, so you know the reason I brought that up, you know how important it is to not give a tip that would hurt anything. So this is the Epsom salt idea is a great idea.
Yeah, it's not going to hurt a thing. It's not going to hurt a thing.
And it'll actually help a lot, won't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it'll make your yard green.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you, Bob, for giving us that tip.
You betcha.
I'm up here on Eagle Mountain in Batesville. The river's right here behind me. The vegetation won't let you see it real good, but the property owner here lives in Chicago, and crew's up there treating some trees that Got a borer problem, we're taking care of that, but I thought you might want to see this cedar tree. It's growing right amongst these rocks, just actually pushing itself out from under a rock, raising a rock that probably weighs 10 or 12 tons up. Cedar tree's pretty resilient. We don't have to treat them too often. Every once in a while you get a bark beetle problem, but basically they're a pretty resilient tree. They'll do a lot, and you can see that this one here is just holding its own, even though it's got rocks holding it down. So that's what a cedar tree looks like and how it grows up here, and then you might try planting one in your yard. You might like a cedar tree. We're right outside the town of Magnus, and last fall this homeowner here noticed this tree was busting, and he put a cable and a ratcheting apparatus up there to pull it together to hold it till he could get a hold of us. We're going to put 3 bracing rods through it to hold it together. It's an old tree, and he wanted to protect the tree. He built a new house right here on this property and grounds, and he knew he wanted to save this tree. We're going to treat this tree, and we're also going to put 3 bracing rods in it. If you get a tree with a bust like that, you can put a temporary aid on it like that. You notice he used some inner tubes from tires underneath the cable so it wouldn't cut into the tree while he waited for us to get here to repair it for him. So you can do a temporary repair like that, and it doesn't hurt your tree. Needless to say, if you left it on there too long, it'd choke out the tree and you'd do more damage than you done good. But once we get the rods in, we'll remove that for him, and the tree will be in A1 shape. So these large old beautiful trees like this, keep an eye on them and take care of them. This house was recently constructed a little over a year ago, and they put in a lot of trees, and just like the college, they call us in to treat these, so they'll get a lot of years of good out of them. They put in all better than 75 trees around this big home, and with our help, they're going to be able to keep the biggest part of them. What we're doing is we're soil injecting a vitamin and a mineral, an enzyme that causes the roots to attach the systemic insecticide that we put in to handle the insect problem we have also. So you get a lot of bang for your buck when you have us call us in after you put these trees in after a year or so. Sometimes maybe sooner than that. But that's what we do with young trees, and that's how we do them. This old oak tree's been here a long time. You could tell kids used to play basketball under it, and evidently they nailed a hoop up there and somebody's forgotten it, and it's growed into the tree. If you have a problem like this and you want to get rid of it, instead of trying to dig that out, it's much better off for the tree to cut off each end close as you can without damaging the tree, and let the tree just go ahead and cover it on over. So don't try to dig it out. That hurts your tree and not doing any good for it. So just cut the ends off if you do have something protruding out of your tree and you don't like the looks of it. I personally think there's a lot of history in this iron sticking out of some of these trees, but to each his own.
We'll be right back on Tree Doctors right after these messages. Stick around, won't you?
Hello, I'm Ed Dickey, the tree doctor at Dickey Tree Service. I'm coming to you from inside of a tree. We've been getting inside of trees for 35 years. We get to the root of the problem. Give us a call. We know how to save your trees. We put the chemical where it needs to be, inside your tree, taking care of insect and disease problems. We're often imitated, but never duplicated. We've been doing this 35 years. We know what we're doing. Give us a call. We're the tree doctors, Dickey Tree Service. It's not hard to see what killed these trees. It was boreworms. The borer is a hard insect to control, virtually untouched with spraying and other applications. But with systemic injection, when the borer eats the tree, the borer dies. Trees are dying all over, but we've got the cure. We give a 1-year guarantee when we treat your trees for the borers. We've been doing this 35 years and we know what we're doing. Give us a call. We're the tree doctors, Dickey Tree Service, in your yellow pages under trees.
appreciate you sticking around for Tree Doctors. Remember, we're here on KAIT every Saturday and Sunday morning at 6 o'clock. Now let's head back into the field with the head tree doctor of Dickey Tree Service, Ed Dickey, right here on Tree Doctors.
I want to talk a little bit about mulch around your trees. During the winter, of course, it helps insulate the root system, and during the growing season, it keeps your grass and stuff from growing. If you do put a layer of mulch like this, you need to stir this about 2 times during the growing season. If you don't, you'll get a fungus growth to build up because of the rotting chips and the heat that it creates. If it's not stirred periodically, it tends to cause a little bit of a problem. But you can see there's no vegetation growing on this. They're using a little bit more mulch than I'd recommend, but when the nursery planted these here a few years ago, they left a ball up high off the ground, so there's actually not that much mulch in there, even though it looks like a big, large amount. But just remember to stir that mulch, and as the wood decomposes in there, you will have the best of both worlds. You'll have a great surround going around your tree without a bunch of vegetation going on. Also insulate your roots in the winter when it gets cold. These young trees need it. We're just finishing up this large cavity where we treated this old oak tree with borers, and we filled, you watched us in earlier segments showing how we filled it with the concrete, and we're putting the finishing touches, a little camouflage paint to make it blend in with the surroundings. Strictly a cosmetic thing. The concrete's what does the holding power. Just keeps it from looking like a sore thumb by using the camouflage paint. That's a total reason we use that. And as you can see, it blends in with the surroundings quite well. The tree's stronger. And when we did this, we went right inside the cambium with the concrete, and then we put a finished final rubberized seal over the top after the concrete, and that will actually push out in years to come, that little rubberized part, to allow the tree to grow over, and it will totally encompass this concrete at some point in time, and barring all Mother Nature's wrath, the tree should do well for many years to come. It's quite labor intensive, like I've mentioned 2 or 3 times, but it's really worth doing, and if you're going to do it right. And costs a little more to do it right, but it's there forever. I'm here with Charles Cottrell, and it's been about a week since I talked to Charles about this tree, and he's having me, he's got a borer problem. You can see the running on the bark, and we treated that, and he had that big cavity. And Charles, what do you think of it now since we patched that thing up?
Well, it looks a whole lot better, and when we called Dickey, we didn't even realize we had a borer problem. We knew the termites had been here a while back, 10, 15 years back, and had eaten the hole through the cavity of the tree. And since then, we've had 2 limbs drop down. One of them probably over 100 pounds, almost hit the roof. So the cost of doing this was nothing compared to what it would have been there. But the tree looks great. We feel a lot safer now, and appreciate the good job that you've done.
Right, and I'd instructed Charles on what some other trimming he needs to have done to get the tree in good shape, because needless to say, this doesn't fix everything. He's still got some other things in disrepair up there that he's going to attend to. And once he does that, I expect this tree to do well for many years to come, and I hope that's what you was looking for, Charles.
Oh, you betcha. This has got to be a 75-100-year-old tree that it's beautiful for the house and the neighborhood and for Jonesboro, so we certainly didn't want to cut it down, and I think it's good for years to come.
Right. You know, it's kind of odd that, you know, we just fixed this one, and right across town I noticed earlier one just about this size. We measured it a little while ago. It's better than 16 foot around. They're taking one down over there, so it's you know, you don't see them too often.
No, it's sad when that happens. Sometimes they've got to go, but if you can fix them, then it sure is nice to have them around for future generations to come.
You betcha. Well, thanks for taking a minute and talking to me about it.
Appreciate you very much.
I'm here with Jason Wilkie, the Parks and Recreation Director here in Jonesboro, and we just got through finishing a large project at the city cemetery, treating some trees, old trees there. And Jason, what's going on new with the parks here in Jonesboro that people need to be aware of?
Well, the City Council has just approved 5 new playground installations for our Parks Department. Joe Matt Campbell Park, North Main Park, which is off of Main Street, William Evans Park, which is near the new E. Boone Watson Center, and then Fairview Park, which is over in Nettleton. And the Fairview Park's going to be kind of neat. We've got a whole tree theme. The molded plastic roofs will look like tree canopy, and then the bases look like actual tree trunks. And so it's about $75,000 worth of playground equipment that kind of keeps the tree theme in that neat forested park over there. We also have a 12-court tennis court complex going in, and a new skate park, and a water spray ground, and so all in Nettleton, in our Allen Park Community Center in Nettleton. And so we're very excited about some of the improvements that the city is wanting to do in its parks, and those are some of the things that we have coming up soon.
That is great, and that shows the city and the mayor and the aldermen really want to keep our parks looking good around here for the citizens to enjoy, and you do a fine job of keeping them up. I want to mention you took me to another little park downtown here a few weeks ago that you take care of. It's what's the location of that?
It's called Forum Park, and it's across the street from the Forum Theater. And in that park we had several trees that were in planters. I believe they were sycamore trees, and we had a report that those trees were dying, and I had called you out to look at those trees, and it's sad to say it looks like, according to our conversation, that the trees were just not designed to be put in planters, and so we're going to kind of manage their demise.
Right, and Jason put it well, just a managed slow death. Sometimes when trees are put in a position that they're not going to do well, you can't just throw money at things, and that's what I told Jason. It's just best to just keep the trees as well as you can now and not spend any additional money on them, I didn't think, and control them and replace them with trees that are designed for that close growing situation.
Exactly, and that's one of the important things. We want to replace those with trees that are beautiful for that area, but also that will survive in those planters well. And so we're looking at some of the ornamental dogwoods and perhaps a redbud or something like that to go in there.
That's right, and having foresight to go look down the road to what you want, and when time comes, you'll know what you want to put in there.
Yeah, and I think that's important. An important point for the community is that it's very important to consider what kinds of trees you're planting in certain areas. I know one of the things we've talked about is that first thing when you plant a tree is look up and see what kind of power lines are above you, and then also look at the surrounding area. How much water can that tree get, and what kind of ground is around it. So, and
the amount of maintenance it's going to require in the future too. It's important. You won't want to put anything that's labor intensive. There's a lot of trees to choose from, and a little thought goes a long ways. And the park does that, I've noticed.
We're trying to do that more and more. In fact, we're working with the Forest Commission and the Arbor Society to really do some planning for Craighead Forest Park and our other parks, putting trees that are really more functional for the parks, that are healthier, a diversity of trees. So if we get a blight or something that comes through, we don't lose all our elm trees, like the Dutch elm disease came through and killed several thousand trees a few years ago, and so we're trying to do some planning along those lines.
Right, and not put the old saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket. That still holds true today, doesn't it?
That's right. It's good in investing and good in tree planting.
I was looking over this property up here where the property owner is about to construct a new home, and stumbled across a tree just growing wild here, and most people aren't familiar with it, but it's the buckeye tree. And just growing out here in the middle of all this other vegetation. And not too many people down this part of the country have seen a buckeye tree. But it seems to be doing good. Sitting right here just growing wild. It's just shed a couple of them out of the hull, and they're laying here. And this is a Ohio buckeye here in Arkansas. So Arkansas's got some fertile ground. Grow a lot of trees, different kind of trees. Experiment sometime. Bring your tree in when you go visiting. See if it'll do good. We're here on the grounds of the Earl Bell Community Center in Jonesboro, and here with me is Alice Samuels. And Alice, what was some of the questions you wanted to ask me about this Bradford pear here?
This was taken down during a storm, so they trimmed it down. And what I want to know, should this not be trimmed on this side to even this tree up?
Yes, ma'am. What Alice is talking about is a windstorm come through, and half of this Bradford pear, it happens in a lot of cities, and The groundsmen here have put a coating on here, which is fine. Looks better anyway. But this jaggedness here should have been cut back a little more evener. It's a little bit of trouble, but if you take a saw and kind of cut these splintered places so they don't catch the moisture and cause a rot, it will help the tree. And as we go up to the top of the tree, it's kind of ill-shaped. And Alice, I think, was wondering about whether it needs to be totally trimmed, and a Bradford pear can be trimmed back quite severely in the fall, and because it'll grow towards the sun. Now it's got a limb on this side that kind of looks out of place now, real low. Now this limb I'd recommend to be removed, as well as the one right above it here that's kind of hanging low. That would bring the shape back to a natural straightness, because Mother Nature's great. A tree will grow up towards the sun and balance itself, but when it starts off being counterbalanced, it's very difficult even for Mother Nature to straighten that up, so you got to give her a hand every once in a while. And did that answer some of your questions there, Alice?
What is this now? What is that that's been put on there?
Okay, that looks like it's a wound dressing, and all that is a lap cement. People familiar with roofing knows what a non-fiber lap cement is. It's an aerosol can, and they label it pruning sealer, and which is fine. I'm a strong believer in the camouflage paint myself to make it look natural so it just don't stand out, but what a lot of people do this, they think it deters the insects, and in some ways it does, but if it's not done correctly, and you can see some places where it's not sealed all the way over, moisture actually gets behind this and hinders the closing process of the tree and causes a rot. That doesn't concern me as bad as these jagged places right down here, which could be straightened out. And yeah, if I can dig one of my saws out of the cobwebs here in a future segment, I'll show you a few cuts that you can make that will help with this, and it's quite simple when done properly, and I'll try to show you the proper way to do that. But our old Bradford pears, what causes this, and people need to be aware of it, is the limbs actually grow against one another, and it's like a little jack over time jacking itself apart, and that's what happened here. And then a windstorm came, and of course they thought it was the wind that did it, but if they could have looked back, they could have seen this was actually pushing, and it had a hairline fracture to start with. This tree would have been a perfect candidate to put a rod through to preserve it, or to take the cross branch where I'm suspect right here is where it was pushing, that it pushed itself out and caused the crack. But Alice, you got a beautiful front here of some Bradford pears, and I know you love your trees. We was talking earlier about your director here had me treat the ones at the city cemetery. There's some beautiful trees over there.
The oaks, yes, they are lovely, and they're old.
How far back those trees go, Alice?
Oh, probably over 100 years.
I would think so too. Well, I hope I answered some of your questions you might have about this tree.
Well, I sure do appreciate it.
Well, I thank you for taking time talking about them.
That's all the time we have today on Tree Doctors. We appreciate you joining us. If you have any questions, you can email Ed Dickey at dickeytree.com or call the number below. We'll see you next time on the next episode of Tree Doctors.